Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDad FF. Joined as always by my main man at FFSnoog. Guys, we passed 4,000 subs. Got the link down below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our page on our quest for 5K. And today what we're going to talk about is our wide receiver ADP steals. A lot of you guys now, rookie hype is over. We're really starting to look into dynasty startups. And Snoog, there is a lot of value to be had in these current startups. I'm in Smash Accept 19 right now, Smash Accept Global. I'm seeing some real values at this wide receiver position.
Yeah, especially when you start getting in like the wide receiver 30 through 50 range. There's tons of steals and players that should be higher than they are. So I'm excited to jump into this one. Give us, three guys each. We talk about these guys, why you should be buying them, why they're steals, and the type of upside that they bring. So I'm excited to jump into this one and talk about some of these guys.
Yeah, the first guy I just drafted at 705. He is currently going at wide receiver 27 at pick. Oh, geez, pick 78. And that's crazy to me because that DK Metcalf just got Aaron Rodgers. DK Metcalf is the only wide receiver in town. I mean, when Pickens was there, you were going to say, hey, 1A, 1B. Right now, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers is going to hook up with DK Metcalf on a regular basis to make him potentially a top 12 to 15 wide receiver this season. I think he finishes as a top 12 wide receiver when you look at what he's done. 2020, wide receiver 7 with 17 points game. 2021, wide receiver 14, 14.4. 2022, wide receiver 16. 2023, wide receiver 21. And then in 2024, before his injury, and a lot of people don't really pay close attention to this, he was wide receiver 11, with 15.1 fantasy points per game. The injury knocked him down. DK Metcalf is someone that I think has the talent to be a top 12 wide receiver. And it wasn't too long ago that we were looking at him and A.J. Brown in the same, both of them coming out of Ole Miss as guys that were can't miss, similar type prospects. He's only 27 years old. So in Dynasty, he's in his prime, and I think a lot of people get scared away by that age. But Snoog, I'm a firm believer that with Aaron Rodgers there now, DK Metcalf finishes as a top 12 to 15 wide receiver in 2025 and has one of those rare 27-year-old seasons where they increase in value going into when they turn 28.
Yeah, I love that you bring up that 2020 season Metcalf had where he had 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns on 129 targets. I really think that's like some type of realistic outcome for him with Aaron Rodgers, like being hyper efficient on like 130 targets, 1,100, 1,200 yards and 10, 12 touchdowns. Rodgers just supported Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson, both to, top 10 to 12 finishes. So I think that no doubt in my mind, he can support one wide receiver in DK Metcalf, who's an alpha, very talented outside receiver that wins downfield. So love that first one by you. I think that he's a guy that, he's undervalued right now. Like when we look at wide receivers to have successful seasons, talent, opportunity, quarterback play. He has all three of those, and he's playing in a Mike Tomlin offense. So super bullish on DK Metcalf this season. Jumping into my guy here, a little different than what Dad went with. I'm going to go with a rookie. It's Emeka Egbuka for me as the wide receiver 27 in Dynasty right now, according to Dynasty Dad Lab. He's going in the 7th round of startups. The reason why I'm so bullish on him is for a completely opposite reason than you are with DK Metcalf. He's in a crowded situation, which is why he's cheap and why his value is a lot less than, like some of these other rookies like Ted McMillan, Travis Hunter, and some of these guys. But he went 19th overall for a reason, a team that was desperate in need of defense and other positional needs, went ahead and drafted a wide receiver after already having 3 very capable, good wide receivers in Jalen McMillan, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. This tells me one of two things. Either the Buccaneers think Chris Godwin's not healthy and they don't think that he's going to be ready in time, and they don't think that he's going to come back 100%, and Egbuka is going to be the Godwin replacement within the next year or two. Or Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both getting up there in age, both been battling injuries year after year now the past couple of years, and they're like, we got to get ourselves our future wide receiver 1, so we're going to take this guy that we didn't even think would be here at 19th. He's a stud. I don't need to sell you any more on that. The reason why I love his value is that wide receiver 27. He's really one of the only guys in that range after the top 25 that I think could get into the top 15. Like, I don't think any of the other guys could become foundational assets. I think Egbuka could because he has Baker Mayfield. He has the offense. He plays in a terrible division. He has that, 21, 22-year-old pedigree, the first-round draft pick, the Ohio State wide receiver, all the things that you can get in the 7th round. And then he ends up being, a 3rd, 4th-round startup pick in 2026. So that's why I'm bullish on Emeka Egbuka and why you should be drafting him.
And the dynasty wide receiver landscape is very much like the landscape of America. It's a disappearing middle class. Right now you have, it's like DJ Moore, Jordan Addison, Egbuka, Metcalf. They're all in that middle area where they're not necessarily – Egbuka could go up, Metcalf a little bit, but Waddle, J-Mo, Tyreek Hill, they're not going to increase in value. So you're kind of in a weird spot where that's why Snoog and I are always talking about early on in startups, we are really preaching that you get your wide receivers early because you're going to build around those foundational wide receivers. A wide receiver that we used to consider in that foundational realm has had a couple disappointing seasons, however, has been hyper productive when he gets the opportunity. Poor quarterback play has really held back Chris Olave, and his value because of the concussions right now is incredible. He's going at wide receiver 24, which is pick 72 in college. In 21 games, 99 receptions, 1,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. In 31 games in college, or in the pros, 159 receptions, 2,165 yards, and 9 touchdowns. It has not been the same level of production once he's gotten to the NFL, but he had phenomenal quarterback play in college. Derek Carr has literally set him up to get murdered across the field. He is the guy that I think with Tyler Shuck or whoever they roll out here in 2025 in a Kellen Moore scheme that really accents the slot wide receiver, I think he could get 160 targets in this offense. Like Shaheed on the outside, and then you got Kamara underneath. But I think he's going to dominate the middle as long as he stays healthy. And if he can play concussion-free in 2025, Chris Olave is a guy that I think could enter that top 15 range because he's been on the cusp, right? Him and Garrett Wilson have been on the cusp of greatness. They've just had poor quarterback play. We still don't have elite quarterback play for both of them, but the talent is there. Those Ohio State wide receivers are phenomenal. Olave's talent is unbelievable, and he's just 24 years old. I think if he has a nice, solid 1,200 yards plus 10 touchdowns, I think his value recoups, and we get him firmly inside the wide receiver 15 range. That's why he becomes such a value, because Derek Carr got him killed across the middle so many different times. Derek Carr retired. And I think Olave in 2025, if he goes injury-free and he plays fine with Tyler Shuck, guess what? The Saints are going to get an elite level quarterback in 2026. And that's really what has me interested in Chris Olave.
Yeah, and the best thing about Olave is he's had 2+ yards per route run in every single season, paced out to 1,000 yards in every season. His first 2 seasons paced out to 1,200+ yards as a rookie and a sophomore in the league. He's one of those players that feels like you're getting like your Terry McLaurin, your DJ Moore, a guy that's going to be putting up 1,000 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns every year, which is perfectly valued at the wide receiver 24, 25 spot. And if he blows up and has a 1,300-yard season, he's gaining value. So that's what I love about Chris Olave. The talent's there. The target volume's going to be there. Great pick there. Next guy, kind of similar to, these guys that we've been talking about, Jerry Jeudy. And this is a player that finally fully lived up to the hype that we've been waiting for. I mean, just last season alone, 1,200+ yards on 90+ receptions. Joe Flacco is going to be the Browns starting quarterback, and everybody that watches the NFL and fantasy football knows Joe Flacco throwing your fantasy football wide receiver is literally like Christmas morning. Like he's going to pester him with targets and give him, 8 to 10 targets a game. They didn't really add anybody to the wide receiver room that we're worried about. They only beefed up the run game and brought in more quarterbacks. So it's a win-win for Jerry Jeudy. I think the real case scenario for Jerry Jeudy is he's just going to get you 1,000 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns and 80+ receptions yet again, and he's going to pay off big time at wide receiver 35. I mean, last year alone he had Jameis Winston, who's literally like the younger version of Joe Flacco, just a gunslinger who's going to feed that as his number 1 target out of the slot, and Jerry Jeudy's that guy for Kevin Stefanski's offense. He knows it. Like he's said it many times, and Jeudy looks great in training camp right now. He looks like the healthiest he's ever been the past 2 to 3 seasons. We got a few glimpses of his talent, his skill set, and his, flashes in Denver. He had that one season where he almost had 1,000 yards in like 14, 13 games. But the hamstrings, the injuries were just lingering. He can never stay healthy. Finally put it all together last year, and he blew up. So I'm super excited for Jeudy. I know he's one of your guys as well. Who, so far, through the 4 guys that we've talked about, Dad, give me your number one guy that you're confident to gain value, and give me your number one guy that you think is the riskiest to gain value out of the 4 guys.
The riskiest by far is Chris Olave. Chris Olave is potentially really bad concussion away from exile, like retiring, so like that's the riskiest of them. I think there is a 0% chance that DK Metcalf drops in value. I think Egbuka right now, we talk about wide receivers that are rookies, and if they have a 700-yard season, they're not going to drop in value. So Egbuka is the safest. I think Metcalf can rise, in my opinion, the most, and Olave is the riskiest. The next guy that I think is a complete, and we look at Egbuka, Olave, Jeudy, and this next guy, they're elite level separators. Metcalf just, he's just an absolute specimen, but Deebo Samuels is gone. Ricky Purcell's the number one guy there, and Jawan Jennings. Now we talk about the fact that a lot of people think that Brandon Aiyuk is done, that Brandon Aiyuk has really dipped off. Hyper efficient wide receiver since 2023 among all wide receivers with 70 receptions. He's number one with 17.2 yards per reception. He's number one with 11.2 yards per target. Use this injury discount because it sounds like he's going to be ready week 1. And if he's not week 1, it'll be week 2 or 3. In the past, last year, he got injured. We saw what we did in the first couple of weeks, and he finally, before he had a horrible injury, he was starting to put up points. He was starting to get back acclimated to the offense. Brandon Aiyuk, it wasn't long ago that we had him ranked all the way as wide receiver 13 or 14 in Dynasty, and he's still that same player. He still has that same level of talent. It's just going to be a matter of how hungry is he? Because he got paid. And it feels like a lot of people are down on it because he's talked about wanting out of San Francisco. He's wanted to, I think he really has a bad taste in his mouth because of the way things went, all the trade rumors were swirling around. But Brandon Aiyuk has top 12 to 15 dynasty upside. And I think at just 27 years old, going at pick wide receiver 37 at pick 93, he goes right behind David Montgomery and right ahead of Dalton Kincaid and Jaden Higgins and Sam Darnold. Smash Brandon Aiyuk. Go get him right now.
Yeah, you're potentially getting the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver 1 at wide receiver 37. And this is an offense that's going to put up, top 20 or 20 plus points per game total as an offense. They're going to be a top 10 to 15 scoring offense in the NFL. And they're going to dominate. Like when they're fully healthy, that team and that offense cruises. They put up points. So steal at wide receiver 37 for Brandon Aiyuk. My guy here, my last guy, Davante Adams, the one real true vet that we're going to talk about on this show. But to finish us off, I still think he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL when he's playing on the football field. He's still up there with, the top 8 to 10 guys. He's an elite route runner. He's been good with any quarterback, any situation. He's been good with the Jets, the Raiders, the Packers. It doesn't matter. He's always good. He's always the alpha. He joins the Los Angeles Rams with Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, and Puka Nacua. He's going to score 12 to 15 touchdowns and put up 1,000+ yards in this offense as the 1B, 1A with Puka Nacua. And I think that this is the best situation he's been in since his prime days with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Like, he is literally playing with a fantasy football machine in Matt Stafford, an elite offensive-minded coach in Sean McVay, and he's going to be a go-to route runner out of the slot, outside in the red zone. That's the key because that Rams offense gets to the red zone a ton. I think Davante Adams is going to be that guy that they're scheming plays up, getting the quick slants ready, getting the outs, getting the digs, getting all that stuff, the one-on-ones. and down in the red zone. That's where he specializes, and that's where Sean McVay knows, okay, I got Davante Adams now, not just Puka Nacua and, Cooper Kupp, who's on the sideline half the season. I think this is going to be a guy that, you're getting him at wide receiver 41. If I got 2, 3, 4 foundational wide receivers already, and I'm in that, 10th round, take a shot on Davante Adams for a year or two just to help put your team over that hump. Because, Dad, is it crazy to say, like, if I told you next year, if you just say you fell asleep, you woke up in a year, and I was like, Davante Adams finishes a top 5 wide receiver, would you be absolutely shocked?
Not talent-wise, but I think Puka would have to get hurt there. I think Puka's going to be there, but I think Davante's they both have top 10 upside. And what the best part is, as far as value looking at it, is he's going in the same area as Isaiah Pacheco, Mark Andrews, Cortland Sutton, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Brian Robinson, Kyle Pitts. And no, I'm not making this up. Like that's the range he goes at on Dynasty Data Lab. And you're going to win championships with Davante Adams. You can't say the same about Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Cortland Sutton, Isaiah Pacheco. They're not winning you championships. Davante Adams will. So these are our 6 wide receivers that we think are absolute ADP steals. Again, DK Metcalf, Emeka Egbuka, Chris Olave, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Aiyuk, and Davante Adams. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process.